Every year, Italy receives somewhere in the region of 60 million visitors, which means it has had a very long time to practice being visited, and tourists have had a very long time to practice making the same mistakes. The remarkable thing is how consistent those mistakes are. Decade after decade, generation after generation of traveler, the same itineraries, the same traps, the same misplaced expectations, arriving by the plane load into Rome and Milan and Venice and leaving slightly disappointed in ways they can't quite articulate. Italy is not disappointing. Italy is one of the most extraordinary places on Earth. But it is a country that punishes the tourist who arrives with a fixed idea of what it is and rewards, extravagantly, the one who arrives with a little humility and a willingness to be corrected. Here's where the corrections usually need to happen. The itinerary problem in Italy is almost identical to the itinerary problem everywhere, except Italy makes it worse because the country is so dense with things worth seeing that the temptation to overpack is essentially irresistible. Rome, Florence, Venice. The holy trinity of Italian tourism. 3 cities, 10 days, a train pass, and the quiet confidence that you are about to see Italy. You are about to see 3 cities. Beautiful, historically staggering, genuinely unmissable cities, but 3 cities nonetheless, in a country that contains dozens of places equally worthy of attention and a fraction of the visitors. The tourists who leave Italy saying it changed them are rarely the ones who did Rome-Florence-Venice on a schedule. They're the ones who spent 4 days in a hill town in Umbria where the main square has a cafe and a church and approximately nobody else from their country, or who drove through the Lang in Piedmont during truffle season and ate something they still think about years later, or who found themselves in Lecce in the deep south and realized they had arrived somewhere that bore almost no resemblance to the Italy they thought they were going to. Italy is not a highlight reel. It's a country, and countries, as a rule, reveal themselves in the parts that didn't make the highlight reel. Rome deserves its own conversation because Rome is simultaneously one of the greatest cities in human history and one of the most efficiently stripped of genuine experience by the way most people visit it. The Colosseum, the Vatican, the Trevi Fountain, the Spanish Steps. These are the landmarks. They are real, and they are remarkable, and you should see them. But seeing them the way most tourists do, arriving at the Colosseum at 11 in the morning without a pre-booked ticket, joining a queue in 30-degree heat, spending 40 minutes inside, and then walking to the nearest restaurant with an English menu outside, is a way of technically visiting Rome while actually experiencing very little of it. The Colosseum at opening time, with a ticket booked in advance, with a guide who can explain what you're actually looking at, is a completely different proposition. The Vatican museums without a reservation are a 3-hour queue in the sun that ends with a glimpse of the Sistine Chapel ceiling over the heads of several hundred other people. The Vatican museums with an early entry ticket, arriving before the cruise groups, are one of the great museum experiences in the world. Logistics in Rome are not optional. They are the difference between seeing Rome and surviving Rome. But the deeper point is that Rome's actual soul is not in its monuments. It's in the neighborhoods. Trastevere on a weekday morning before the restaurants open. Pigneto, which doesn't appear in most guidebooks and is where young Romans actually go. Testaccio, which is the city's old slaughterhouse district and is now home to some of its best food. Prati, just north of the Vatican, residential and calm, and full of the kind of ordinary Roman life that the tourist circuit never quite reaches. The monuments tell you what Rome was. The neighborhoods tell you what it is. Venice is the city where the mistake is almost philosophical in nature. Most tourists visit Venice as a day trip or a one-night stop. They arrive, navigate to the Rialto and San Marco, feel overwhelmed by the crowds, eat something overpriced near the water, and leave concluding that Venice is beautiful but exhausting and probably not worth more time than they gave it. This is precisely backwards. Venice in the daytime, during peak season, with the day trippers from cruise ships and the tour groups moving in formation across the bridges, is the worst version of Venice. Venice at 7 in the morning, when the light is low and the alleys are quiet, and the only people moving are locals heading to work and the occasional bewildered tourist who set an alarm. That Venice is one of the most extraordinary urban environments on Earth. Venice after 8 in the evening, when the day visitors have gone and the city exhales and the restaurants fill with people who are actually staying. That Venice is worth crossing an ocean for. The city also has a geography that most tourists never penetrate. San Marco and the Rialto are famous because they are central and obvious. But Venice is made of 6 sestieri, 6 distinct neighborhoods, and the further you get from San Marco, the more the city starts to feel like a place where people live rather than a place where people visit. Cannaregio in the north, Dorso Giro in the south, with its university and its wine bars that stay open late. Castello to the east, which runs all the way to a park at the edge of the lagoon where almost nobody goes and where you can sit on a bench and look at the water and hear, for the first time since you arrived, something that is not a tourist. Stay at least 2 nights. Arrive early. Stay late. Walk in the wrong direction until you are genuinely lost. Venice rewards the lost tourist more than almost any city in the world. Florence has a different problem. Florence is a city that has been so thoroughly curated for tourism that it sometimes feels less like a living city and more like a very beautiful museum with restaurants attached. The art is real, and the art is world-altering. The Uffizi contains paintings that are not merely famous, but genuinely transformative when you stand in front of them without the mediation of a reproduction. Michelangelo's David in the Accademia is one of those rare experiences where the reality exceeds every expectation, regardless of how many times you've seen the image. These things are not overrated. They are exactly as significant as advertised. But Florence is also a city of about 350,000 people, most of whom do not spend their days in the Uffizi. They live in Oltrarno, south of the Arno, in a neighborhood that has maintained something closer to a local character than the historic center. They shop at the Mercato Centrale not for the tourist stalls on the ground floor, but for the actual food market that operates in the less photographed sections. They take Sunday drives into the Chiani Hills, which begin almost immediately outside the city and which contain a version of Tuscany: vineyards, cypress-lined roads, hilltop villages, meals that last 3 hours. That is significantly better than the version available from inside the city walls. Florence is worth 2 full days on its own terms. The surrounding region is worth however much time you can give it. Most tourists do neither adequately. The food situation in Italy is where the gap between what's available and what most tourists actually eat becomes almost painful to observe. Italy has one of the great food cultures of the world. Not in a vague, general sense, but in a specific, regional, hyperlocal sense that means the food in Bologna is fundamentally different from the food in Naples, which is fundamentally different from the food in Palermo, which has almost nothing in common with the food of Alto Adige in the north, which draws on Austrian influences and produces dishes that most people would never associate with Italy at all. The mistake is treating Italian food as a monolith. Ordering pasta everywhere because pasta is what Italy does. Avoiding restaurants without English menus because that feels manageable. Eating near the landmark because it's convenient. The places that matter in Italian food almost never have a host outside trying to attract customers. They almost never have photographs of the dishes on the menu. They are frequently small, frequently full of locals, frequently operating on a logic of seasonal availability that means the menu changes based on what arrived at the market that morning rather than what is easiest to produce consistently for a high volume of undiscerning visitors. A practical guide: walk at least 10 minutes from any major landmark before choosing a restaurant. Look for handwritten menus. Look for places where you have to wait for a table because they don't take reservations and the locals have already filled most of them. Order whatever the waiter recommends without trying to control the outcome. This approach produces better meals with a consistency that is almost statistically reliable. Bologna, incidentally, is widely considered by Italians themselves to have the best food in the country. It receives a fraction of the visitors that Florence and Rome receive. These 2 facts are not unrelated. The seasonal question in Italy is more nuanced than the standard advice suggests. August is when Italians themselves go on holiday, which creates a paradox. The tourists arrive in August because the weather is good, and that's when they have vacation. The Italians leave in August because they also have vacation and they are not going to spend it standing in line at the Colosseum. The result is a country in high summer that is simultaneously packed with foreign visitors and hollowed out of local life. Restaurants in major cities close for 2 or 3 weeks. Shops put up their shutters. The city that exists in August is a tourist city, not an Italian city, and those are genuinely different things. April, May and early June offer weather that is warm without being punishing, landscapes that are at their most lush and green, and a country that is still operating on its own rhythm rather than the rhythm of peak season. The light in Tuscany in May is the light that painters have been coming to paint for 5 centuries. There is a reason for that. September and October are arguably the best months of all. The summer heat has broken. The grape harvest is underway in wine regions across the country, which means the countryside is alive in a specific, seasonal way that has nothing to do with tourism. The crowds are thinner. The food is at its best because autumn in Italy produces an extraordinary range of ingredients: porcini, truffles, chestnuts, the first pressed olive oil, that summer simply cannot match. The Italy of October is a different country from the Italy of August. Quieter, richer, more itself. Most people never find it because they are not looking for it. There is a broader mistake underneath all of these specific ones, and it's worth naming directly because it shapes the entire experience. Most tourists visit Italy with a checklist. Colosseum, check. David, check. Gondola ride, check. Amalfi Coast, check. The checklist is not wrong. Most things on it are worth seeing. But the checklist is a way of consuming Italy rather than experiencing it. And Italy is a country that does not respond well to being consumed. It responds to being slowed down in, to lingering over a meal that has no particular reason to end, to getting lost in a city without consulting the phone for 20 minutes and seeing what turns up, to sitting in a piazza in the late afternoon when the light goes gold and the old men play cards and the children run between the tables and nothing is happening except life, which turns out to be exactly enough. The tourists who leave Italy most satisfied are almost never the ones who covered the most ground. They're the ones who chose less and stayed longer and let the country arrive at its own pace rather than at the pace their itinerary demanded. Italy will show you something extraordinary if you give it the room to choose what that something is. The mistake almost every time is not giving it that room. Thanks for watching. If you found this useful, smash that like button and subscribe to When to Travel. We're all about helping you make smarter travel decisions. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. And hey, if you think your friends need this, share it. Comment below with your next destination or your biggest travel question. I'm reading all of them. Let's go.